Explain your love for pork and cheap beer, but let's have your story. Let's hear about you first, and then let's talk pork and beer.
Totally. I love talking about pork and beer. So
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
My guest today is Sarah Monson. Sarah, thanks for being on the show. Really looking forward to chatting with you. I got to just tell you, I saw an article about you in the Seattle Times, and it read, you have a love for two things, pork and cheap beer. At that point, I knew I had to talk to you. So why don't you explain your love for pork and cheap beer, but let's have your story. What's your backstory? Let's hear about you first, and then let's talk pork and beer.
totally. I love talking about pork and beer. So this will be a lot of fun. Like you said, my name's Sarah. I'm 28 years old. I'm originally from San Luis Obispo, California. I've been living in Seattle for the last 7 years now.
What brought you up from California?
I actually came up to go to culinary school.
Oh, very cool.
I had a real interest in cooking, and that was always something that I wanted to pursue. Wasn't really quite sure how to break into the restaurant industry or like what that kind of looks like. So I visited Seattle a few years prior with my brother and just kind of fell in love with it. And just decided, I would love to get out of my hometown, go somewhere new, and maybe, pursue this cooking thing also. So moved up here, went to culinary school, and I've been working in the Seattle restaurant industry ever since.
Very cool. So how was culinary school?
It was an interesting experience.
Oh yeah? Okay. There must be a story. Let's hear your interesting experience.
Totally. I mean, once you get into the restaurant industry, most other cooks will tell you that going to culinary school is a huge waste of time. I get it, time and money, because, most of what they say is that you could just, weasel your way into any restaurant and just like learn on the job. It's a great profession for that reason, is that you learn so much while you're working, and you don't necessarily need to pay for an education when you could get paid to, be educating yourself. So I didn't really know that. And so I took the culinary school route, and I went to Seattle Culinary Academy. It's located out of the community college on Capitol Hill. And it took like 2 years, and you're with these cohort basically of people. It's the same folks taking the same classes at the same time. So you're all in it together for the entire time that you are in school, which is fun and interesting. You kind of like build a little family that way. And, I did learn a lot, and it was a super fun experience. But I think for the most part, the best thing that came out of it was networking and the people that I met while I was there, and the friendships I was able to maintain over the years, because a lot of them are still people that I talk to and whose restaurants I still support. And one of the girls in my culinary class is my current roommate. We, a lot of fun connections made there, and definitely actually helped me put this project together.
So 2 questions about culinary school.
Sure.
What was your favorite, I'll call it a class, it might not be the right word, but what was your favorite topic that you thought was the most fun to learn about? And the flip side to that was, what was your least favorite while you were going there?
I don't know. That's kind of a tough question. I really enjoyed Chef Sarah Wong. She's incredible. Was one of my instructors, and she talked a lot about like fermentation and preservation and those types of processes. And I always thought that was really fascinating. So once you like progress far enough into culinary school, I guess, they start teaching you some more like fun, interesting things instead of just like how to cut an onion really well. So that was an interesting process, and it's definitely something that I've taken into restaurants and, tried to learn more about. And, learning about butchery was a lot of fun. Breaking down whole animals is always an interesting task to me, and something I've enjoyed doing over the years. My Least favorite part. I don't know, because I know people
Cutting
that
onions?
I went to I am the worst at cutting onions. I've been cooking for years and I still weep like a baby every time. But I don't know if I want to say least favorite part. I have a feeling that some people I know might be listening to this. So
Oh, okay. Well, we're not trying to put you on the spot. I was just
overall, I had a ton of fun, and uh it was a great experience for what it was, and I'm happy to have met the people that I met along the way.
so what was your first restaurant job then after school?
I was working while I was going to school. So
Okay.
actually, I would say that was my least favorite part. I've never been more tired in my life than when I was going to culinary school and working in a restaurant at the same time.
Okay.
In I think it was my third quarter, I got a job at a restaurant called Tilth. It's a Maria Hines restaurant. It actually is now closed. It closed down over the pandemic, which was kind of a bummer. Definitely, cut my teeth there and met a lot of people, and that was the first kind of like nice restaurant that I worked at when I was still just like an absolute amateur and I had no idea what I was doing, and I would go home and cry and walk into brunch with a brick in my stomach because I was so terrified of cooking eggs. Like you know,
Well, okay. So why were you terrified of cooking? I mean, I'm terrified of cooking, period. So I'm not, so none of this is like, why, but why, what was
first,
about,
I mean, eggs are hard. Eggs are probably on a large scale one of the most difficult things that you can cook. They take finesse. You can break them. People are particular about them. And when you're serving a bunch of brunch food, it's just like a pretty daunting task if you're an amateur cook. And I was just, still in culinary school, still didn't have like a grasp on cooking for people for a living. And, it was terrifying, but exciting and fun and awful. Like going to school and having a job at any capacity is a tough thing to do. Going to school for cooking and having a job that is cooking and spending so much time in a kitchen is definitely an exhausting experience, but definitely helped made me be the cook I am today.
awesome. So from there, so what little I know, I don't know if you can, I can't tell how much of my backdrop you can see, but over off my shoulder is
Oh, there he
somebody.
is.
And
Mr.
I
Anthony.
actually, my story with him is I actually, yeah, 10, 12 years ago. And he, for those of you that can't see anything, because this is just audio, is Tony Bourdain. I actually got to chauffeur him from Portland to Seattle. So he and Mario Batali were doing a presentation at the Seattle Paramount Theater.
Cool.
And so he had been down in Portland, and this company I was working for, because they were affiliated with the Seattle Theater Group, they said, Scott, we need you to go get Tony Bourdain down in Portland and drive him to Seattle. That was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
So my daughter, I think, was 13 or 14 at the time, and she still is absolutely over the moon about this guy. Right. And I'd read his books and watched some of his shows and that. And so I'm driving him up and she's like, Dad, please just get an autograph. That's, she's begging me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we're not supposed to talk, he doesn't want to, who the hell am I? He doesn't want to listen to me. Right. So, but we're talking, it's a long drive.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I was talking to him and he goes, well, I'll just talk to her. I'll call her right now. So I call, hey, Kenzie, and she's freaking out, which is great. It was awesome. And he ended up giving us 2 tickets to the event that night. And so here's my daughter in the after hours party on the stage at the Paramount Theater talking to Tony Bourdain, and she's still probably the best day of her life. And she's married and has 2 kids. I still think that's probably the best day of her life.
Definitely.
But not ever really working in restaurants. What little I think I know about the industry is from watching him. And I don't know that that's accurate. I think maybe some of it's romanticized and some of it's, have you ever read his Cook's Tour?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've read a few of these things. There definitely is a lot of romanticization.
Right.
Almost got there. Of kitchen life and restaurant industry in general. But I think that Bourdain definitely gets it right most of the time.
Because, you know, you're standing on your feet, you're working in a noisy, hot environment, you're working with pressure.
Mhm.
Got to get, you were just saying about brunch with eggs and all of that, So for you, why is this? And I'll put a word in your mouth, and I may be putting the wrong word in your mouth, but why is this magical for you? Why is this a career that you want?
That's
What is it?
perfect.
What
It
about
is
it?
so magical.
Okay. Well,
It
so
is
what
so
is it?
magical.
From your point, what is? I want to hear this.
There are so many reasons. There's so many reasons I think that I am super passionate about this. Like, I love food, number one. Like, I love food. I love learning about food. I love to eat food. I love to eat food with people. I love, everything about cooking and food just fascinates me. And I feel like, that fascination definitely grew and grew and grew when I was in culinary school. And then going out into restaurants and being able to cook for people, I think is the coolest thing ever. Like, cooking is my favorite thing to do. And I'm so happy that I get to do my favorite thing every single day for a living. Like, that's crazy. Not a lot of people can say that about their career, their profession. So it's definitely really fun going and doing what you're passionate about on a daily basis. Um, and like you were saying, kitchens are sweaty, they're hot, they're fast paced. It's a lot of work. You're on your feet, your body hurts. It's definitely a physically and mentally exhausting profession, but there's something about that that's just exhilarating to me. Like, when you're just getting your ass kicked in the middle of service and you don't think that you can find a way out of the pile of tickets that are in front of you, and it's just like a puzzle piece, and you keep your head down and you just keep going, you keep cooking, and there's no better feeling after service like knowing that you just made a bunch of food for a bunch of people, and like you did it well, and you know executed what it is that you're like trained to do. It's a ton of fun. Plus, the people in the restaurant industry are some of the best folks you will ever meet. It just your restaurant becomes your family, and everybody that I've met in the restaurant industry has influenced me in some way, and they're just the best folks out there. They really are.
Maybe that's a good jumping off point. So you've, as of the time of this recording, have published 2 cookbooks
Correct.
about, well, and I'm going to quote the cookbook, Seattle Restaurant Industry's Guide to Quarantine Cooking.
Right.
So when the world shut down, restaurants closed, your family was gone. You weren't showing up for brunch. You didn't get to cook eggs anymore, at least not publicly, right?
Well, it was far
So,
past cooking eggs.
yeah,
at
but
that
you know what I
point,
mean?
but
It's
yeah,
like, the whole world just shut down. And
yeah.
so what was your inspiration to do the cookbook? I mean, how did you come about that?
Well, all of the restaurants shutting down at the same time was an incredibly difficult experience for everybody. And I live in a house with a couple other people, and everybody that I live with is a restaurant person. We had a GM from Ray's. One of my other roommates was serving at Westward. My roommate Kayla is a sous chef over at Solare. Like, just house full of restaurant folks. And we all lost our jobs at the same time.
Right.
And that's, kind of a scary and uncertain experience. And none of us knew what was going to happen to the industry on the other side of it, on the side of this. And we were all unemployed and sitting at home and just, trying to stay calm, I guess, but still trying to like decide like, well, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? Like, how is this going to pan out? And all of that uncertainty and all of that stress, and bringing home food from the restaurants that had closed because they were just going to rot in the walk-in if nobody ate it, because all of a sudden all the restaurants were ghost towns. We were cooking at home a lot, and I think we were cooking a lot for something to do, just like an activity, and we're all good at it. So cook something all day long and you get to sit down with your friends and eat it for dinner. And, it's always kind of fun, but cooking a lot, um, trying to keep our heads above water as far as mentally, it was tough. We were all having a tough time with the uncertainty, having a tough time with what was going on along with everybody else. But yeah, I started writing the recipes I was making at home down in a notebook, which is a pretty common practice for cooks to do. We always have like a little pocket-sized moleskin notebook in our back pockets, and whenever we need to have a recipe for later, you just kind of scrawl it down, scribble it out. So I was kind of like keeping up that practice while I was at home because it was familiar to me. So there's that sense of familiarity, that kind of routine thing. And when everything routine has gone completely out the window, started just writing everything down. And I was just sitting on my porch one day and I was like, man, it would be cool if, any of my cook friends were kind of doing the same thing. Like you're so used to the community and seeing these people every day, and it's such a social industry, and all of a sudden you can't see each other, dine with each other, or cook with each other, and it's lonely and isolating. And I think I was looking for maybe a way to bring back a sense of community, just see what my friends are cooking, see what they were doing, and I put out a call to have them send me some recipes. The original idea was to have it be just like a super DIY print off my home printer, stapled together, kind of like zine style, pamphlet. And it, really gained a lot of like grassroots traction, like super word of mouth. I was just like cold DMing people on Instagram, like, hey, I know you cook. Like, what you been cooking? What are you doing? So, I just got a pretty decent flood of people dropping handwritten recipes off at my place or mailing them to me, or, kind of socially distanced collection of handwritten recipes that I, scanned and made into a book. And, people seemed to like it, sold a couple hundred copies. It was super cool, really fun project.
And then you did volume 2.
And then I did volume 2. I was crazy enough to do volume 2. Volume 1 was an absolute blast. I had a ton of fun doing it. It definitely, I feel like, helped bring people together during a time when like we couldn't be together. And I was like, you know what, that was a lot of fun. And I think I'm ready to do it again. And after we were all like heading back to work and getting back into kitchens and restaurants again, I was like, this would be kind of fun project now that everybody's like cooking and we can potentially see each other. And I've made all of these networks from doing it the first time, so why not do a second round? And it was even bigger but than before, with tons of different restaurants, and chefs and bakers and bartenders participating. And it's just turned into this really cool piece of restaurant industry memorabilia.
With the recipes, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask, did you try all the recipes? Did you try to prepare them all before you put them in the cookbook?
Oh, no way. I've gotten that question.
That's what I thought you'd say.
I've gotten that question a few times. There are a bunch of things in there that I would like to try and I would like to cook. There are things that I have eaten, but I think it was more about bringing everybody together than like recipe testing and making sure that these are like, spot on recipes. Perfect. I think that it was more fun just to have everybody put something cool in, and like, people can tinker around with it.
Right.
And
okay. That's what I thought you were going to say, because it just would be overwhelming.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So I'm gonna bounce around here a little bit, because I want to talk about this pork and beer thing now, because
Totally.
I've got the recipe up in front of me, and I have to ask, because I'm kind of a literal person.
Totally.
So it says here, Rainier's to cover, 5 to 6, in parentheses, 5 to 6 cans, plus more for drinking. I need to know specifically on the more for drinking part. That's a little vague for me. What are you talking about here?
That's
Because
as
I think that's key to the recipe.
totally, absolutely. I understand. I think that's as many as you feel in your heart.
Okay.
It's just
This is where you can experiment and
that's
make the
exactly that's
recipe
where you
your
can
own.
play around, make the recipe your own. I think you just like go with your gut, feel it
Go
out.
with your gut, yeah. So have you ever so I grew up here and obviously, but if you look at me and you look at you, there's an age difference here.
Sure.
Even back in the day when I could drink beer, because it just doesn't agree with me anymore. It's really very sad. But I didn't drink Rainier. I just didn't care for it personally. That's my personal. I was kind of an Olympia fan.
Oh,
If
okay,
you're
yeah.
talking really cheap beers. But why is there a reason why you picked Rainier? Is it just because it's what you had in the house that day, or
I'm not from here. Like I said, I'm from California,
right?
and so that's not anything that like would have been ingrained in me to drink, I guess, because
Right.
they don't have that down there. But I moved up here and tried it for the first time, and I was like, this is perfect swilling beer. Like I could drink like 6 of these.
Swilling beer. I love it.
That's what
That's
my
our new
dad.
tagline.
That's what my dad would call it. But yeah, I just like immediately took a liking to it.
Okay.
I don't know what that's all about. And then it just became my kind of like regular bar order. Like you go in, I get a Rainier and a shot of something, and
So what?
um,
Okay, a shot of what? What are you pairing with it?
I like to pair my ice cold Rainiers with a shot of Espolón Blanco tequila. I'm a
Okay.
total tequila girl.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my order. I live
That's
right
you.
across
Okay.
the street from the Big Mario's in Fremont, and I actually work there in selling pizzas once a week. But lived here for a couple years. Definitely befriended the bartenders over the time, and they like look at me weird if I order anything that
If you
isn't
order something else,
a Rainier and a shot of
are you
tequila.
feeling okay?
Are you okay? Are you
Oh.
sick? Definitely.
So let's go through. Why don't you? Can you walk us through your recipe and how did you? Because I mean, this is what the Sale Times is talking about. This is they were
Yeah.
talking to you about your recipe. How'd you come up? Well, what was the inspiration? How'd you come up with it? Walk us through the prep and all of that of it.
Oh yeah. So like I was saying earlier, when all of our restaurants shut down, a lot of us took home the food that was in the walk-in so that somebody would eat it.
Right.
And my housemate at the time was working at Casco Antigua, which is a Mexican restaurant, and they had these huge pork shoulders in their walk-in. And he was like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can figure out something to do with it. Like, bring it home. Let's see." And it just ended up being just like massive piece of pork. And I'm like, "Okay, we got to eat. So, like, I guess I'll cook this." So I had this huge pork shoulder to deal with. I had a 24 case, of Rainiers in the fridge. And just decided, like, tacos sound pretty good.
Yeah.
So I did the recipe with tacos in mind. That being the end result, is kind of like pulled pork taco type situation, or like little sliders. I think just something to
Right.
snack on, something we could have for lunch, like something that I would keep for a little while, and we'd all be full and happy.
There we go.
But yeah, just charred up a bunch of limes, charred some onions. It helps like keep that flavor really deep and delicious. And you sear off a big old hunk of pork. I mean, obviously you can scale it down if you're cooking the recipe at home, because it is quite an intimidating hunk of meat. But
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of pork there.
definitely serves a ton. But yeah, it ends up being this just like super scrumptious pulled pork, like multi-use kind of yummy
Yeah, it
thing.
sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome. Have you tried it with other beers other than Rainier? And if you have, does it change it much?
I have not actually.
Okay.
But I would assume that it would probably be pretty good with Pacificos, or any kind of like Mexican beer would be super tasty. But you want to stay pretty like I wouldn't do this with like an IPA kind of thing.
Okay.
And I know that's pretty much all you can find in Seattle, but like keep it light, keep it Pilsners, lagers, that kind of deal.
Okay. All right. So volume 2 came out and it sold out.
It did, yeah.
Now, I believe before we hit record, you are going to be doing a second run of this.
I will be doing a second run of this. I haven't quite nailed it down with my printer yet. I want to get all of the books that I have to shipped before I order any more cases into my house.
Gotcha.
But I ordered 450 copies from the printer. Shout out to Walter Bantle at Now Impressions. He did an excellent job on the books. So
Awesome.
huge thank you to him. Ordered 450 copies. They sold out, I think it was like 9 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
So
on you.
they went pretty quick, and I had the pop-up event at Rupee Bar so people could come and pick them up, and just got a lot of inquiries and people wanting to buy copies after they'd all been spoken for. So I was like, you know what, if people want this thing, like I'll print more. I'm, more than happy to get more copies out there and, sell them.
So you Rupee Bar, you work there, correct?
I do work at Rupee Bar. Yep.
I know nothing about it other than I looked it up and it was little research, very little. James Beard for the interior.
Yes, they did win a James Beard Award for the interior. It's pretty cool.
I didn't know that James Beard awards were for interiors, and the space from the photographs I could see, it's a really cool looking space.
Mm-hmm. The space is gorgeous. They definitely did a great job with the dining room. If you're going to be in a sweaty kitchen for 10 hours a day, it's kind of nice if it's a nice place to hang out. It definitely is a gorgeous restaurant space. They did a great job.
So not to put you on the spot, but how's the kitchen? Is it a good kitchen to work in as far as layout and all of that? Or
funny, that's a funny question to me because if you've seen the inside of Rupee Bar, if you've ever been inside Rupee Bar, it is tiny, very, very small restaurant space. I'm not entirely sure of the seating capacity. I think there's like 6 tables inside and a bar. And it's a narrow little restaurant. So like really just like intimate and tight and close quarters and anyway, really small. So if you can imagine that the dining room is that small.
Kitchen must be
the kitchen massive. Is microscopic. It's an absolute shoebox. And going in and learning to cook in a kitchen that tiny is definitely an interesting task. Everything goes up because like we have high ceilings.
Right.
So if we're storing anything like pans or like dry goods or anything like that, it can't go out. And there's not a lot of wall space because the kitchen is just so small. The all of the racks and the shelves go up, and so I'm constantly having to climb a ladder or a step stool or politely asking my coworkers if they can reach something for me. Like I'm only 5'3", so I'm always on my tippy toes. That's definitely an interesting part of working at Rupee Bar is dealing with how tiny the kitchen is. But it's lots of fun. I love my coworkers, so I don't mind being crammed in there with them all day long.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about because like I said, I don't know anything about it other than the photographs I saw of the dining area. It's a really cool looking space.
Yeah. Fun little cocktail bar.
What sort of, what do you guys serve in there? What's the,
they like to call it Sri Lankan inspired cocktail food. I guess it's really common in Sri Lanka to have these just like little bars you can just kind of duck into and grab a drink and grab a little small plate to eat and you be on your way. And it kind of is an homage to that, it being a tiny little hole in the wall in Ballard. And they serve incredible cocktails. All the drinks on the menu are great, and they just wanted to have like really yummy Sri Lankan inspired dishes to go along with the great cocktails. So we're doing curries and vegetable dishes, and we've got this incredible Kerala fried chicken on the menu, and that's probably our best seller. It's essentially a chicken shack. We sell so much chicken. But yeah, really quick, easy, deeply flavorful, homey dishes. And it's been a lot of fun cooking that kind of food.
All right. You mentioned their drinks are great. What, give us an example of a signature cocktail from there, if you will.
There's
Is
actually
it Rainier and tequila? Is it Canada?
we do usually have some Rainiers for the staff in the back fridge, which is nice of them to offer us. But
There you go.
I will say, as a plug, there is a recipe from Rupee Bar in the Cookbook Volume 2. We make our own tonic, and so we do an Indian gin and tonic. And one of the bartenders, Kevin, wrote it down for me, and we put it in the book. So it's in there if you wanted to check it out. It's
Gin
really
and tonic. Okay.
delicious. Yeah.
You're helping me dispel, I think, some preconceived notions I have. But so you cook all day or all evening, whatever your shift is, right? Okay, You're cooking, and you come home. You got to eat.
Right.
Do you really want to cook?
No.
Or no?
No.
Okay, so put you on the spot and ask you, like, what's the I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm just going to grab something, is it is it Kraft mac and cheese, or
it is actually.
Oh, is this? Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's Kraft mac and cheese, huh?
I love Blue Box Kraft macaroni and cheese. I get that it's fake and processed and disgusting, and I understand that they're
judging you.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I feel like people would. Like, I get that it's not the best thing for you, but I eat an awful lot of the original Blue Box Kraft macaroni and cheese. Absolutely.
Because you don't want to cook if you're,
No. After you've been in a kitchen for hours and hours all day long, the last thing I want to do is go home and cook anything or make a dish. Like, I don't want nothing like that. I don't want anything to do with it. So
okay,
definitely.
I'll put you on the spot a little more.
Sure.
So now you've been off for a couple of days and you want to cook at home. Do you have a go-to that you like to cook at home? Is there something that you like to?
Yeah, I love to cook at home in general. I still live in my household full of folks who love to eat. So we try and plan dinners together as often as possible because it's just more fun to eat with more people.
Sure.
But I think some of our favorites have been whole roasted fish over the past couple years. I love going and getting like a branzino or a rainbow trout or something like that from a fish market, buying a couple of them depending on how many people are eating with us, and searing them off real hard on one side in a cast iron pan, turning it over and popping it in the oven with like some lemon and rosemary and salt. It's just the perfect food to me.
Hey, that's actually sounds quite amazing.
It is quite good.
How about when you go out? Are there places in Seattle that you like coffee? Coffee, yes, as it should
coffee,
be. When you live in Seattle, you have to drink coffee. I think
it's required, definitely.
I think when you move to the city limits, I think there was a form that says, yes, I'll drink coffee. You have to carry it with you if you're from out of state. But okay, and all kidding aside, coffee, first off, what type of coffee beverage do you like? And where's a great place?
I have a couple different coffee preferences. I'm either somebody who wants to like enjoy a hot cup of coffee if I have the time to do so, or like I am honestly kind of a sucker for like a drive-through coffee, cold brew fix type situation. Like, we don't really have drive-through coffee shops in California, and that has been one of the coolest. No, not really. It's not super prevalent, but that's been one of the coolest things up here. Is like I drink coffee all day long, and right in the middle of the day, I can be like, you know what, I'm out running errands. I'm gonna go, drive through and get a cup of coffee. But as far as like good coffee and places that I think are really excellent coffee shops, I really like Analog up on Capitol Hill. It's an excellent little coffee shop. Venture Coffee in Ballard. It's right down the street from Rupee Bar, so super easy to pop in and get something delicious on the way to work. And they've got great coffee too. So both of those places, I would say, are my faves.
Yeah, Seattle's got some outstanding choices.
Excellent stuff. Yeah,
it's hard to find a bad cup of coffee in Seattle.
Totally.
You can, like, Denny's.
Right.
But if anybody that sells coffee into their coffee shop, their coffee is probably going to
be pretty good.
Pretty darn good. You might not like how they roast it. You might prefer something else, but you probably aren't going to complain about this. You might just go, yeah, it's not my favorite, but you're not going to say it's bad type thing.
Mm-hmm.
For when you go out and grab something to eat, where's a great place to just go and like grab a sandwich or something, keeping with the drive-through to go thing, like with coffee, but is there some informal place that you think is kind of fun and off the, that you go
for a good sandwich? I'm wearing their t-shirt right now. I know that this is like an audio thing, but Layers Sandwich Co. is probably my favorite sandwich in the city. They make these incredible kind of like fancier leaning sandwiches, and they're always just like perfectly balanced and the perfect bites, and they're run by two of the nicest people you will ever meet, Ashley and Avery, and they are just wonderful folks who are putting out an incredible consistent product. They go to a lot of breweries. I think they do Fair Isle. I know they do Urban Family. Just kind of like bopping around the city, parking in front of different breweries and slinging sandwiches. And
so they're a food truck?
They're a food truck. Yes.
Okay.
And they post their schedule of where they're going to be on their Instagram every week. So you'll know where to find them, but I will say there's usually a line. I know you're asking off the beaten path, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
So when you grab a sandwich there, what are you grabbing? What do you tend to like?
They do this one with pork belly and like pepper jelly, and it's called the Precocious Piggy. It is like their signature sandwich, and it is a sandwich that will change your life. And I know that you probably hear people say things like that all the time, but I'm serious. I think about that sandwich. I crave, it is on my mind. It just is a delicious treat. So I would highly recommend, if you can find some time to wait in line and wait for a sandwich, it's definitely, worth it.
It's worth the wait.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What else? Help me out, because we moved. So I lived in Seattle many years ago and moved over here to Central Washington now. And I'm living vicariously through everybody who gets to eat in Seattle versus my limited choices where I live. So it's a trade-off. What other places are doing some really cool things?
Really cool things. I mean,
that you think are really cool, like to you, like you're like, this is cool. I like this idea.
Totally. My favorite thing about the Seattle cooking scene, I guess, right now is all of the pop-ups that are happening. I think that because of the pandemic and people being out of jobs, like they just decided, like, you know what, if I can't work in a restaurant, I'm just going to figure out a hustle on my own. So it's been cool seeing all of these people creating their own products and doing their own thing and doing really, really well. And, doing these pop-up restaurants out of real restaurants, I guess you could say it. So I think that's been a really cool concept and a really fun, positive thing to come out of the pandemic, is that you're getting to see all of these cooks in Seattle that aren't your, Ethan Stolls and Renee Erickson's and people, these big name chefs that like have a ton of places. Like, these are just the line cooks that work for those companies, and they're just like getting to show off and make a name for themselves independently from the restaurants that they're working, just for doing really cool stuff. So places like my buddy John and his partner Janet's Pancita is doing incredible Mexican food. They've got a tostada pop-up coming up on the 8th. They're making incredible stuff. Gorilla Pizza Kitchen is making great pizza, popping up all over the place. There's a lot of folks out there doing some really cool, interesting things. And I think it's cool to support, your local line cooks.
No, I think it's great. Do you think that trend is going to continue once we get back, right now? Because restaurants are are they still at 50% capacity, or
restaurants are still at 50% capacity, I think, until June 30th was when they're trying to open everything up to 100%.
Right. So, but do you think this pop-up trend will continue once we get back to full capacity? Do you think Like, for example, are these line cooks realizing that I can do this, and I can go do my own thing, and the community's excited to receive it? Do you see that in your opinion, do you see it continuing?
I really hope so. I really hope so. I think it's easy right now because a lot of restaurants are closed a few days a week. You close Monday, Tuesdays, or whatever. So it's easy to have folks come in and do their little pop-up restaurants out of restaurant spaces that aren't functioning for maybe a day or two. Right. So once things start to like ramp back up and go to full capacity, I don't know how easy it's going to be to find places to do that kind of thing. But I think that you touched on it definitely, that these line cooks are realizing like this isn't so out of reach to be able to do. And right. So I'm hoping that people continue on with the trend. I think it's really cool. I think the public has been really receptive to supporting hospitality workers, and it's just been cool to see people be successful, like doing their own thing.
Yeah, I do. I think it's really exciting that people try. It's a low risk way of trying a concept and seeing if how it's received versus signing a multi-year lease on a space in a city whose rent is exhaustive.
Really?
I mean, it's just rent in Seattle is just it's so prohibitive to do things. So, and it's great for I think the restaurants that are not, if they're closed on Mondays or Tuesdays, then they can get a little bit of extra revenue by opening up that kitchen.
Absolutely.
I did see, is it Guy Fieri's got his there's a ghost kitchen somewhere in Seattle
doing Guy Fieri food. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's something to be said about celebrity chefs, and Guy Fieri definitely, he's a philanthropist, and he donates to a lot of good causes and definitely like uses his money to help out and stuff. But God, I wish that like big name chefs like that would just stop. Like we're trying so hard as a restaurant industry to like pull ourselves up from our bootstraps, and so many restaurants have closed and have not been so fortunate over the course of the pandemic to be successful and be pulling in enough money to stay open. And I definitely advocate for like supporting small businesses, supporting local chefs, local restaurants, trying to spend your money and your dollar there as much as possible because of how tough this year has been on the industry as a whole. So it's kind of disappointing when like big name chefs like that come in, because everybody's just going to go flock and do that thing because it's the cool like viral thing to do. But which is fine, to each their own. But I don't know.
But at the same time, I agree with you, and that's the whole thing about our show is like we like to talk to people that are doing cool things that aren't necessarily a major household name. I mean,
sure.
not that a major household name isn't doing cool things, but let's talk to you. Let's talk about your cookbook. Let's talk about all these things that are going on, and if we can get a couple of people to go try a restaurant, that's a good thing.
Absolutely,
as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not cooking and you're not eating blue box macaroni and cheese, what do you do for fun and R&R?
Fun and R&R. I just like to hang out with my friends. Everybody says that, but I've got a pretty cool backyard, and I've got some really great buddies that I'm fortunate enough to live with, and we just all like to spend time together. We have movie nights in the backyard, and we've got a trampoline and a picnic table and a fire pit, and it's just the perfect place to just
that's
relax. Great. It's hang out at home.
Are you into music at all? Did you before pandemic? Did you go out and see any acts in Seattle?
Yeah, that was probably one of the sadder parts about the pandemic, is not being able to go see live music and that kind of thing. Definitely was seeing a lot of shows at the Showbox, and trying to get out and see live music as much as possible, but I can't even remember what the last act was that I got to see. That was so long ago.
So I saw a band last night
mm-hmm.
live at a winery in Quincy. So, and then Thursday night I saw another band live at a cider place in Puyallup. So that was so in a week I've seen live music for the first time in over a year.
That's so exciting.
And I think the musicians were happier than the audience
Totally.
because they got to play live, and it was really, really cool.
Nice.
And I'm really looking forward to that coming back. And I'm hoping, because I love the idea, for me personally, I love the idea of pairing music and food together, like in having interesting, great food, or not necessarily great food, but cool taco things, a good truck that does good food with a live act. There was where we went on Thursday, there was a wood-fired pizza place. That was kind of cool. Boom, boom, boom. I love to see the combination of those. And I hope that comes back.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun once we can all start, getting together and hanging out and doing fun stuff again.
Did I hear correctly? Did you say one day a week you sling pizza?
I do. On Mondays, I make pizzas. It's true.
And where? Where
at Big place? Mario's Pizza in Fremont. There's a couple locations, and I just work at the one near my house.
Put you on the spot. What's your favorite Big Mario's Pizza?
Oh, definitely the Spicoli. I know that's like probably everybody's answer because it's their like, signature kind of pie or whatever. Right. But it's pepperoni and pineapple and jalapenos, and it's perfect and it's delicious, and you get it with a side of ranch. And like, I know this is kind of weird, but when I go there and I get a slice, I usually get it cold because they heat them up to order if you get it by the slice. Right. And like a lot of people,
I'm looking at you weird.
I know. Judging me more for that than you did for the mac and cheese.
Not at all. I'm not judging you at all because. So I interrupted you. Go on. You get the slice cold.
Yeah, get the slice cold. You get a side of ranch. You get your shot in a beer, and that's just like that's good after shift. Like before I go home kind of food. That's what
you're telling me, because cold pizza can be amazing. I am not judging you.
Right.
You're saying that their pizza is good cold.
I think it's excellent cold. I eat it cold all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's some pizza places that it doesn't do cold. And not that they shouldn't have to. Like here, take half your pie home and it'll be fine cold the next day. It said no pizza place ever.
Right.
But, I've always used to like, it was kind of something fun about getting up, and typically I was feeling a little groggy, and, having cold pizza in the fridge was somehow comforting to me.
It is. But, yeah, definitely. It's like comfort food.
So I love cold pizza. I'm not judging you at all. I was looking at you like, really? Though? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cold slice. Definitely.
Okay. What other, I've never eaten there. So what other, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like pineapple on a pizza.
I know that's a point of contention for some people. Oh,
I
no.
just don't.
Sorry, my mom's calling me. Decline.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Sorry. Everything's fine. Just kind of startled me.
So how about giving me another choice without pineapple on
it? They just make a great pie. Great pepperoni slice, great cheese slice. They've got like a bunch of, predetermined like pies you can order off the menu. But I feel like, just going for a slice, and it's a perfect slice. I think it's the best slice in the city. I'm not just saying that because I work there, but there are a ton of places
on Mondays. It's the best slice in the city. That's what you just said.
On Mondays from noon to 5, it is the best slice in the city. There are a bunch of places in Seattle where you can get a slice of pizza, and I've always thought Mario's was like top tier. It's tasty, tasty as hell.
Okay. Yeah, I just can't do the pineapple. Sorry.
Can't get past it.
I don't know. And I like pineapple.
Huh.
It's not that I don't like pineapple. That's for me, not that it matters, but it's like maybe the one topping on a pizza that I don't like. I mean, you can put just anything else on a pizza and I'll be like, that's cool. I like that. Let's go. Pineapple just somehow it just doesn't work.
It's just the perfect like salty pepperoni, spicy jalapeno. Then you get like the sweet pineapple, and it all comes together, and I just think it's great. I get it. Like fruit on a pizza.
Logically, you're right. I mean, I can't argue with you've just described a great set of flavors.
Right. I get it though. I understand it's an odd concept, and I definitely have people that think I'm absolutely wrong for liking pineapple on pizza, but it's just good.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. It's just not for me.
Totally.
I actually kind of like the idea of a cold slice. I mean, that's kind of, is that off the menu? You have to ask for that? Or?
Well, I mean, usually when you show up, and you order a slice of whatever they have in the window. They just pop it in the oven. But yeah, if you ask them not to heat it up, they won't. And even when I'm working, like, it's not the most uncommon thing people ask for. So it's not just me.
Not just you. No,
It's not just
no
me.
one said it was. No one said it was. No, I'm not picking on you. So since your mom called, you should probably call her back.
Right.
I'm kidding. But where else can people find you online and keep track of what you're doing? Because you've got some stuff. You show stuff online, and so why don't you tell them?
Yeah. For pretty much all cookbook related news, I've done it all via my Instagram. It's the easiest way for me to keep everything in one place and, make announcements and advertise it that way. So my handle is my first initial and my last name. So it's Monson, SMONSON. And that's where I'm most active on social media. And I post a lot of the food that I cook at home and the food that I cook for restaurants and updates about what's going on with volumes of the cookbook, that kind of thing. Plus, like, shenanigans and what have you. Yeah.
And cold slices of pie.
And cold slices of pie. Beers. Perfect. And that kind of thing.
Awesome. Well, I really am grateful that you spent some time with me to record this today.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. And we will catch up soon.
Totally. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.